I was just introduced. This is an interesting thing that has occurred over the past 2.5 years for me. I'm a mom. I'm not a public speaker. I have been to more forums than I can count, and I stand before this microphone petrified because I'm not a public speaker. But it's so important that we talk about what's actually happening. You're all here tonight because of the tests, and you know that there's a huge controversy over them. We know that they are developmentally inappropriate. The testing is a very big issue right now because our teachers are being held accountable to a flawed score, which is not been developed by educators. It's secret. What we need to understand, and where my perspective comes from as a mom, 2.5 years ago, I was in my daughter's karate. She was doing karate and the moms were sitting around. And one mom came in who did the same thing that I had done through elementary school, and she was volunteering in the school because at that time you were still allowed to do that. They were looking for parents to come in and volunteer. And she told a story about a ridiculous, convoluted, crazy question that was on the test. And this was in 2012, about a pineapple in the hair. Do any of you know that? Have you heard that one yet? It was the most ridiculous thing anyone had ever heard. It was crazy. Parents, teachers, administrators, college professors, it went around social media. Nobody could figure out the answer. Adults, educated. And I thought, what am I listening to? And that's what started me on my journey. I went home, I looked it up online, and I could not believe what I was reading. And I found out that there was something called the Common Core, and it's called the Common Core Learning Standards, and they were brought to us. For us to talk about testing, we need to understand how Common Core is directly related. This is not a separate issue. You've been told Common Core is a set of learning standards. It's not the curriculum, it's standards. Well, I'm here to tell you that's wrong. The Common Core Learning Standards are, in fact, when they line up with the curriculum, which will line up with the testing, Bill Gates told us then that we would have a successful 10-year experiment. Can you imagine that? This is a 10-year experiment. Your kids are in school from K through 12. Do they have 10 years to be guinea pigs? There's no empirical data that backs up the claims. There's not a single study that backs up that this is a better educational model. In fact, we know that the teachers that we've had over the years, decades, that have produced many educated people sitting in this room right now, teachers, they know what they're doing. They have master's degrees. They have studied child development. And all of a sudden, these Common Core Learning Standards came into play. And they were told, you're doing it wrong. None of the people on that development consortium had K through 12 experience. None. None of them were in a K through 12 classroom. None. When these standards were written, and you'll find now, you'll hear from teachers, although many of them are gagged under the New York State Education Department, you can't talk negatively about this. So we find ourselves here tonight going, what is going on? Do any of you remember in the past couple of years the newspaper reports and the articles and the debates that were happening at the state legislature, or any of the information that was saying, hey, there's this great thing called Common Core and it's coming down the pike. Why don't you come learn about it? Do any of you remember that? No, you don't remember. You know why? It didn't happen. It never happened. There was no public debate. There was no legislative debate. We got it because there was $4.3 billion dangled out there called Race to the Top. I can get all the details, but I'm going to kind of squish it down for you. It was right after the recession, and we needed money bad. Our schools had been strapped. We'd been strapped so bad. Gap elimination adjustment, foundation aid. We were hurting for money. So with $4.3 billion laying out there, the National Governors Association was approached, and they said, you need some money? Yeah, we need money. We need it bad. So they signed on. And New York State got $700 million. And they came back and they said, isn't this great? And the New York State Education Department signed on with a memorandum of understanding and said, we're on board, let's do it. They're great, it's higher standards, it's rigor. Rigor. Can you imagine that? I don't know if you've ever looked up the term, but maybe when you go home, look up the term rigor and think about that as a definition for your children. I don't really like that as an adjective describing my daughter. So they came back with the money and they started to implement. Here's the kicker. When they signed on for the money, the standards weren't even written yet. I don't know how many of you know that. They were not written yet. So what I'm going to talk to you about tonight is that it is completely tied to the Common Core standard. Is tied to testing, which ties to curriculum. So you cannot separate the three. They are all one and of the same. My fight is against Common Core, not just testing. The testing itself is based on a score, an SAT score of 1,630. They decide how many are going to fail. 70%, give or take. Last year I think we increased 2.3% to show a little bit of improvement. The cut scores are not issued until after the tests are taken. Much of the questions that are on the secret test that the teachers do not have access to, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. How can the teachers not have access to it? For years. My oldest is 33 years old. I've always had an open relationship with our schools and our teachers, and I've had access to the tests. And there were immediate results that told me the weaknesses and strengths of my children. These tests do not do that. So the cut score is issued after all the kids take this test. Most of it is abstract, like the pineapple and the hare, who didn't have any arms or sleeves or legs or whatever it was. And a lot of it is based on abstract thinking. Educators know that child development, abstract thinking, does not really occur in the frontal lobe in the brain until after the age 12. So what are we setting our kids up for? I could go more into testing, but I want to talk to you a little bit more about this nonsense that they call raising the bar rigor nonsense. This college-ready screed, which has now become rather sickish. If we allow the decomposition and to ooze forward, we are, in truth, sentencing this generation and those to follow to a robotized, joyless school experience for those that don't drop out, and one that will sabotage them for the remainder of their days. There's a special sanctity when it comes to children, but now it seems it's in vogue that we prod them into wicked little crates with wicked little labels. And in the process, we're stripping away the rainbows of childhood. What are we doing? Are you aware of the movement across the nation, the Stop Common Core movement, where we have seen parents from every political persuasion, every economic circumstance, we're locking elbows. We're shoving this issue called Common Core to the very top of our priority lists. It's a phenomenon that I have been involved in for more than 2 years, and it's gaining momentum. It's across the state, and it's across the nation. In New York alone, there are over 185,000 parents, teachers, principals, administrators, and mental health experts. They're sounding the alarms. And they're joining. More people are joining in daily. I'm proud to say that I am one of them. I'm a mom. New Yorkers went to the streets last summer, and in a matter of weeks we gathered signatures to establish the Stop Common Core ballot line. We only needed 15,000 signatures. In a matter of weeks, we gathered 100,000 signatures. It was history. We, the grassroots, broke the New York State records for the largest petition drive in history. Sadly, that effort after the election resulted in the loss of that line remaining on the ballot. We are, however, more resolute, and our voices are only going to grow louder. Our children are not for sale. They are entitled to a whole quality child education. They're not human capital. To be funneled into one of 16 career pathways, The current governor and the legislators at the state level and the federal level are failing your child and every other youngster. Lobbying in Albany has become a normal thing for this mom. Some legislators are listening. We still have a lot of work to do. To suggest that the issues that share the same immediacy as any of the social issues is just a selfish logic. It's a dangerous logic. Are any of those issues less important? Of course not. But at this moment in time, because one of them can dice a child's life, as Common Core does. It is the priority of children, this generation, and our nation. Education is their right. It is our obligation. You see, I'm a mom. Since the beginning of time, man has found titles to be very useful tools. Titles have helped distinguish people and the tasks that they perform in society. Titles define our roles, and they give certain order to things. Titles sometimes are regal: prince, lord, lady. We all have children that put their capes on and they play the parts. Make-believe, playtime. Children need that to develop. There are senators, ambassadors, statesmen. They speak to a person's political skills. People of distinguished talents are called doctors, professors, colonels in our military. Some titles even refer to a person's special commitment to others. We call them pastor, father, rabbi. But of all the titles, all over the world, none of them has a more universal power than the term mother. It is a regal term in and of itself, and it's a title that speaks to both special talents and commitments. By now, it has become a political title, not by choice, but by necessity. I stand before you. Of all the titles, none has the more endearing softness of mom. Other titles, by comparison, seem rigid and are seldom reduced to any soft terms, in simple terms like mom. You can't really soften your highness, your majesty, your honor. But a mother can be softened to mom across the world since time began. But there's a special caution that you need to understand. When it comes to mom, never mistake the soft sound for the mild, weak, or meek. We are not. Nature cautions us to be very careful with the title mother. Threaten a tiger or a bear cub, and you're going to have a handful of mother. In fact, threaten the very safety of a newborn, and you're going to have a mother of a moment. You'll see a quick sort of fierceness that the title seldom implies. Flick the right switch, press the wrong button, and mother can become a nightmare. Human mothers are hardly any different from that. The fastest response that you will ever see from a mother is when her child is put in peril. And it will not be a momentary reaction at all. It will be sustained, and it's a sort of aggressive defense. It will shock your senses, even though it shouldn't. Place a child in harm's way, and you'll witness an innate response of a mother that will seem out of character, but it's not at all. It should be expected. In fact, it should be very expected. Harm presents itself in different forms. Physical danger will evoke the most immediate response of all. We've all heard about the tales of warrior moms, savior moms, even survivor moms, who have all reacted in awful situations where their instinctual nature will take over. And it is almost impossible to overcome. But when it comes to a child, nothing is impossible for a mother. Nothing. Peril comes in many forms, and this Common Core threat is a special kind of peril. It's a special sort of danger. And the mother reaction has been spectacular. It's been stunning. But it shouldn't have been unexpected. Across the state and across the nation, mothers have been the first to step forward to protect their children from the Common Core wreck. This should not surprise a soul, but it has. In fact, it so stunned some folks that lots of not so special things have been said. They turned the term mom into a negative title. Many moms are usually quiet and reserved. Some take pride in the fact that they've made a personal decision to become stay-at-home moms, but now they've been summoned into a fight that they didn't ask for, one that they will not avoid. Few of them ever envisioned investing endless hours, crisscrossing the state, attending forums, boards of education meetings, hounding state representatives, lobbying at the state capitol, and having them hear the case about Common Core because they just don't know. Other moms have made the commitment to work outside the home, but they too have found the hours into the wee hours of the night. Their energy is zapped by this effort. For nearly all of the moms that are involved in this effort, it requires research, writing, connecting, organizing, publicly speaking, devoting endless hours to both the expected and the unexpected. But stay-at-home mom or not, there's one sacrifice every mother is making, and that is we are sacrificing the precious hours and the mounds of emotional strength that would otherwise be reserved for our own children. This is not a complaint, it's simply an observation. When our children are involved, we don't complain, we go to work. No force in nature or government is going to turn our children into pawns. We would much prefer the other sweeter moments with our children, a silly moment on the carpet, a chance to share a sweet drippy treat, swap some nonsense, read a goofy book, watch a movie, giggle, go to the lake, the playground. We've been called away for now. We didn't call for this crusade. It called on us. The others, the reformers, have called us out. We're answering. Arne Duncan, the Federal Secretary of Education, said that he found it fascinating. He used the term fascinating. That the opposition to Common Core, quote unquote, has come from the white suburban mom who, in all of a minute, found out that her child isn't as brilliant as they thought they were, and that their school isn't quite as good as they thought it was. He said that. He actually said that. He was fascinated by that. Can you imagine? Mothers that have been so long revered and respected are now clueless child agents who have no idea about children's growth and development. Really? We're suddenly stunningly stupid, I guess. We're expected to set aside all of our natural instincts and hand over our children to the bureaucrats and the autocrats who, because of their inherent genius, or is it money, will shepherd our children now into the educational promised land. Can you imagine? Not so fast. The principal Common Core commando and the other governmental insulters think that that backhanded slap is going to muffle the mother, the educated mother, the intelligent and devoted mothers across this nation. Well, then he's in for the mother of all wars, because we're not backing down. We're not going away. He not only made a horrible statement, he made a dreadful miscalculation. There's a special irony in his unspecial remark. He's done us more good than harm. That's right. He did us more good than harm. Because now there is an army of angry, unhappy, very protective mothers that are coalescing across the state of New York and across the nation. We are now connecting across the pond, the Atlantic Ocean. This is a global movement, Common Core, make no mistake. I do not think this is the war that he wished for. He's trying to vacuum up his words now, all these months later. Well, Common Core needs a little vacuuming too. And we moms know a little thing about vacuuming, don't we? Common Core has turned nightly homework into horror sessions. You heard Joelle talk about it. Every educated parent finds it almost impossible to decipher the assignments of a first, second, third, or fourth grader. Really? Parents are shocked at certain content that is not only age inappropriate, but it's downright inappropriate. They wrestle with questionable guidelines, impossible directions. The tales of tear-soaked, anxiety-ridden homework and endless hours are easy to locate if you are on social media. It will bring you to tears. It's why I fight so hard. I don't fight for my own children, I fight for all of them. These stories are dreadful to hear. Parents are at their wits' end and at the end of their patience. But it's the children who worry us the most. There's this incessant testing, stomach churning, spirit-killing testing that seems to be the wretched new objective of classroom life. Swirl in a little bit of scary data collection, loss of recess time, reduced lunch time, overemphasis on keeping pace with the curriculum, tied to a rigid timeline, and you've got the recipe for school phobia. Mental health experts are warning us, and it's here. It's not coming at us, it's here. Children now see their schools transforming into places of discomfort, wondering if they're stupid, rather than places of inquiry, warmth, and curiosity. Creativity is being squeezed, lost to conformity. Anxiety is replaced by joy. And who do these children look for help, for explanations, for reassurances? Mom. And that's why we're all here tonight. It's part of the mom job. Most see the home as the domain of mothers, and it certainly is. But it is equally shared by another titled individual, Dad. More than a generation ago, the old roles of mom and dad underwent a great revision. Dads are no longer disconnected robots whose role was narrowly defined. Dads now are every bit as involved as moms, and every bit as angry. Common Core is much more than a curriculum update, or a revision, or an academic pursuit. It is becoming a family-altering, societal-changing, childhood makeover by government at all levels. It will not stand. It will collapse. It will be taken away. It will disappear. Why? Because moms and dads across this state and across this nation are not going to lay down. We are not going to allow our children to be shredded by a handful of idle eggheads and government know-it-alls who have decided that this nation and the families that made this nation what it is, we are now the incompetent force in the lives of our children. I don't think so. I am asking you, parents, grandparents, anyone that loves a child and this nation, to please live up to your role as the protector of children. It is often joked that the most essential word in a mother's vocabulary is no. This, however, is no joke. I want you to say no to Common Core. I want you to say no to the standardized, bastardized tests. And for God's sakes, let's do what's right. I am a mom.